Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bridging the Gap. I am Bishop Vanessa M. Brown, and I'm your host and moderator for this evening. I am excited today because I have a very, very special guest. And let me just tell you really quickly before I introduce him. Bridging the Gap curates conversations amongst faith leaders, activists, and social justice warriors that focus on addressing HIV, sexual health, human sexuality. And from a faith based perspective, we also provide information on combating religious oppression, which we see far too often and we've seen far too often in our world, particularly that impacts the sexual health of Black people and how the Black church, somebody say the Black church can become more invested in HIV prevention and awareness, human sexuality, bodily autonomy, as well as unpack some of the what I see as medical mistrusts and traumas that continue to plague the Black community. And so I said I was going to start doing these pop-up conversations, and I did. And then the HIV Vaccine Trial Network said, well, will you be an ambassador? Of course I'll be an ambassador, because this is something that we need to be talking about more often in our churches, in our communities, that I think that we think is going away, and it's not really going away. And so I thought, let me get a few of my siblings on, people that I know what they're talking about, to be in conversation with me. And so tonight I have my dear brother and friend, Bishop-elect Kevin Edward Taylor, who is here. He is the pastor, the senior pastor of Unity Fellowship of Newark.
Newark?
Is he? Yes. And also known as Rev Kev. So you've seen his digital footprint all over in terms of social media. And so, Bishop-elect Kevin, give the people more information about who you are and what you do.
First of all, hello.
Cheerio.
Bishop Vanessa, I love you to pieces and all your parts. I've known Vanessa since the 90s when she worked
That's
at
right.
Apollo and I worked at BET. So
Yes.
watching all of this, the faith of it
Yes.
comes to it,
Isn't it great?
and the creative outlet is just
Yes.
really delightful to my soul. I love Beyond the Gatekeepers. I'm loving what you're doing with Bridging the Gap. I'm Bishop-elect Kevin E. Taylor. I'll be elevated to the office of Bishop in October. I am director of Unity Fellowship Church Movement. I am senior pastor of Unity Fellowship Church Newark. I'm director of development at NJCRI, an organization in Newark, New Jersey, that deals medically, holistically, socially, culturally with harm reduction and HIV and testing. We played a great role in getting people vaccinated during the pandemic and getting people vaccinated during the Mpox scare that had people flying in from Atlanta and Chicago and LA to get shots in because we had a greater access to it. And just trying to be, Mahalia used to sing. I had a song that said, I wanna live the life I sing about in my songs. Just trying to live the life I preach about in my sermons.
Yes.
So can't nobody catch me nowhere acting like, boom, I got you. Out black gay man, living my best blessed life.
And I love that. I love that about you. Something you've always done, something you've always promoted to community, particularly our own community, right? And I want to have a conversation with you today about HIV, about COVID, the effects that COVID has had on our community since the pandemic, right? And let's start with HIV. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that every person that I have talked to till today has talked about the numbers rising. Numbers, age ranges between 18 and 24, and the other age ranges are 50 and above. So let's talk about that. Why, in your guesstimation, and particularly working for NJCRI, but also just being a pastor, right? People talk to you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think those numbers are rising?
I think the numbers today are rising, 2024, because in that younger group, go boot camp and talk about harm reduction. They talk about stuff parenthetically, but don't talk about it literally. And so there's nobody in the room with the youngsters necessarily having this conversation. But how do I negotiate sex and sexuality? But how do I meet somebody on the app, but just meet them and not have to have sex? The fact that we're having young people who don't know how to deal with the stigma and the trauma of voluntarily going someplace to have sex and then being kept there for days against their will.
Jesus.
We don't talk about so many of the things that have been the outgrowth of kind of this direct access with social media without kind of the insert of some of the cultural things that we need to help. That's why a lot of organizations, including many of our programs at NJCRI, are on those apps, because it's like, we got to get us where we know we are, right?
Absolutely.
And being a Black gay man who turned 60 this year, hello. Right? Yeah, invitation, get ready to hit you as soon as we get off of here.
I've got it already, yes.
But there's a quote, Bishop, that guides my life, and it's the older I get, the older gets. And some of us have gotten post 50 and didn't expect to be here, didn't expect to be fiduciarily strong, didn't expect to be sexually healthy, didn't expect this. And so now all of a sudden, you the cat daddy. You got somebody 30 talking at you like, how you doing, dad? What's up, sexy? And you're like, you just called me sexy. There was no daddy. There wasn't any reference to my age. You just saw me. And so without the parameter, because the stats will make you feel like they stopped talking. We stopped living at 44. They're like 18 to 24, 35 to 44. Hi, 59, still here. So there's not even data speaking to you. And so the conversations literally can leave the older generation out, when you're dealing with somebody younger who's coming at you, seeing you intimately, they're also, especially if you're just dating, they're also seeing their peers. And so you got to now take on practices at 50 something that you thought you no longer needed to deal with, but you're dealing with somebody who's 20 years your junior, or somebody, your peer, who's out doing other stuff. It's like, we almost don't want to have the conversations of accountability. It's like, oh man, prep a pill every day. I'm like, hi, I'm 59. I take a multivitamin every day. I take a baby aspirin every day. I take extra vitamin D every day. The conversation about taking a pill a day should not be so off-putting. But it's because we don't talk about anything, sis.
That's
right. We don't talk about any of it. And that's what the pandemic showed us. The pandemic, like doing this work inside this house, and, we visually, I came to the table while I was working for the Office of Homeless Services in Newark, came to NJCRI, like, how do we work to get our residents without addresses vaccinated? And so we started to bring them to a place and realized we need to take the mobile unit to them, because the mom with 3 kids can't get all 3 kids dressed and then get on the bus in the middle of a pandemic to get herself vaccinated. Let's just go to them. And we started to then see people say, well, can I, the employee at the shelter, get vaccinated? Because I can't get to the doctor. I'm here. And then it was, can I bring my husband? Can I bring my, my older kids? And we started to realize that it wasn't the panic, it was the pandemic. It was the fact that a thing made us have a conversation. And and we got to have real conversations. Like, I remember a sister saying to me, when I was standing around just kind of helping, she's like, I ain't taking that shot, I don't know what's in it. And she put a Dorito in her mouth. I said, what's in Doritos? And she cussed at me. She's like, oh, like, you got me. And then she's like, are you taking the shot? I said, I have my appointment scheduled for next week. But if me taking it first here will help you, I'll do it right here. And
absolutely.
So can't leave our people, the people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yes. And you just went into unpacking some of the medical mistrusts and the traumas that continue to plague our Black community, even with COVID-19.
And you said, like one of the things, and I'm so glad you said that, because one of the things I remember somebody saying, Bishop, is somebody said, well, I don't trust you. You remember what they did at Tuskegee? I said, at Tuskegee, they gave them syphilis. They did not give them the remedy for syphilis. Let's not get so lost in this that they put the remedy right in front of us, and we ignore it, and let their mamas and their aunties come from other counties and take your healing, because they, you got triggered by a mistrust that wasn't even accurate, right?
And once again, the Black church was not at the center where we should have been. We were behind the 8 ball, right? on COVID, still on HIV, still not having these conversations around human sexuality, around sexual health, around HIV. COVID happened and we were still in church. People were still having church, Bishop-elect, still having church, still going and going and going. People were still dying all around us.
Some
And
churches
I'll
didn't
tell
come out till
you,
June or July. They didn't
listen,
come out of gap.
it was just a crazy situation when in March, I told someone that I was so sick, Bishop-elect Kevin, the week before they announced that there was a pandemic, that I couldn't even get out the bed. And Bishop Flenda called me and said, "Baby, I'm thinking about you, daughter. Are you okay?" I said, "No, I am not. I cannot get out the bed. I am so sick. I can't even get up to use the bathroom."
Mm.
She said, "Who can we call right now?" And I said, well, we started thinking about different people to call. Anyway, we got in touch with somebody. She said, "Go and get this." She was telling them what to get, from the store. And they went and got everything that she said. She said, "Whatever's right, I'll pay you back." And they went and got everything. I started taking all this medicine over the counter, but it wasn't working. I thought better of it. I said, "Now I know I'm not going to lay here and die. This is crazy." I made another phone call to somebody that I know that's a medical physician. And they said, "You know what? There's something that's going on here. And I cannot tell you what it is, but I can tell you that the emergency room is packed and overrun with people. So I'm going to tell you not to come here. However, I'm going to fill out a prescription and I'm going to make sure that the prescription gets to you." And sure as my name is Vanessa, they made sure the prescription got to me. They met me at my door. But when they came to my door, they wouldn't come inside because they said, "I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what this is.
I don't know what this is." This is a medical professional, a doctor, an emergency room medicine doctor. "I don't know what this is." And take everything. You have everything here and in your house to beat this. Friday came and I was better. It was also Lee Truesdale's funeral and I needed to preach it.
Ooh.
I went, I was well enough from a Sunday to that time to preach. And by the time Monday came, they were saying to the world that this is a pandemic and everything should shut down. I had no more church after that.
No more. Listen,
Period. Online.
We went online, but the thing you bring up, Bishop, that I want to make sure that is so tangential to the pandemic, but the greater conversation that you're having about HIV is you're talking to your faith-based siblings, you're talking to your social justice siblings, you're talking about the boots on the ground workers, and you know what the pandemic made me reassess? Who had access to me?
Who had
because
access?
Sometimes we sit so high and lofty that I lived in a building here in Newark that has 22 stories, and almost 1,000 apartments. And you had to get past the concierge to get up there. And I was like, nobody's got access to me.
Nobody has access.
I need somebody who can walk in my door, which means you need the name on the list and a key to my apartment. And it made me reassess all of that, because how many of us lead these going lives? And if we got sick for more than 2 days, unless somebody spoke, unless Spirit spoke like it spoke to Bishop Plum, unless Spirit speaks to your mama, your auntie, your best friend goes, "What's going on?" People feel like not only are you fine, but the Lord got you. And it's like, that's not how health and wellness works.
That's not how it works.
The Lord got me, right? It is, the pastor being able to pay attention to what was going on in the world and call the trustees and go, "So we out of service Sunday."
That's it. We're not going back.
We're not going back until something else changes. Because for us, I'm telling you, we had an experience, Christmas, Thanksgiving and Christmas, where several people got like the flu, to the bone sick, and it went through the church. And I'm convinced now that night, that winter of 19, because it was COVID-19. That's what it was. We just thought it was a heavier flu, and it was not.
It was not. It was not. It was not.
And just like we thought HIV was some odd cancer. It was not.
You see, but do you see how it's all paralleling?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And you see how we have responded to it as the Black church. like we really didn't respond well. And we're still not responding
And we're still not
well,
responding well.
right? We're
But
still not responding well.
just before I got on what you said, I was in a HIV priority setting group here in the state of New Jersey, and we were talking about stigma. And
Yes.
one of the storytelling component people, because it's a lot of clinicians, a lot of researchers, a lot of statewide employees, but this time there were a couple of people who do it on the ground from kind of a different perspective. And one of the women who works in the storytelling experience said it would be nice to hear from everybody in the room what stigma is to each of us, because that's how we begin to unpack these conversations. And you know me, the word I love a word. So like, to look it up real quick, he says that stigma is a mark of disgrace.
Yes.
And if anybody knows anything about leaving a bunch of marks of disgrace on folk, it is the Black church.
Yep.
From the pulpit, the Bible say, the Lord told me to tell you. And it's like you're slapped and traumatized in a space where you thought you were going to get relief from the weak that traumatized you.
And let's talk a little bit more about religious oppression, because that's what it is, right? And it's
Right?
been since the onslaught 30 years ago, when HIV was just a first gay man's disease. So they said, right? And how we isolated people and stigmatized
And
people
traumatized.
and traumatized people and did not want to care for people.
And that part, I mean, the do not care for. I just had to share with somebody, like, Archbishop Carl Bean in Los Angeles was doing 3 and 4 funerals a day. The same was
Yes.
true for Bishop Flinders, like, because there were
Yes.
people who just didn't want to be in the room with didn't want to touch, didn't want to, and it's like Christendom collapsed when HIV came into the house, because
Yeah.
you saw who was and who wasn't, right? That whole thing about, when did I see you enduring this and not love on you, Jesus said, that's what you did, what you did unto the least of these, you've done also. They just cut that page out the Bible.
Yeah.
Right? Like la la la, long as we preaching about prosperity and packing the house with gospel singers, God ain't gonna hold that part against us. When that's the
Right.
whole thing. The way that religious oppression just kind of, I'm gonna say this, and I don't care who don't like it. There's a whole lot of church folk that don't like Jesus.
That's right.
If they could just do the Old Testament part and keep God wrathful, dark, and ugly and
Yep.
judgmental, they would be just fine. Because a whole lot of times they counter Jesus like Jesus never bled, suffered, died, and spoke on this.
Yes. Yes. And so we have a way forward, right? From HIV, preventive medication, or if you're living with HIV, here is just now 1 pill and not 30 pills, right? And or 20 pills, and I'm exaggerating, but whatever the amount of number was, a large number.
My brother took 27 pills at one time. Not exaggerated.
Right. And so you have that, and then now you have COVID, and now we have Madura, and all of these things to help us get better, right? Pfizer, everything, and Johnson & Johnson, and then you have a HIV vaccine, right, that people can take as well. All of these things, but there's so much medical mistrust, because starting with the Tuskegee Institute and those people, like you said, you had to speak to this young lady because she said she didn't know what was in the COVID-19 vaccines, and you went to her and said, "Oh, well, what's in this Dorito you about to eat, or that you just took a bite of? Do you know?" Right? And there needs to be ways that we have that same conversation still in our community about all of these things. About all of
and part of it has to, I mean, the power of the pulpit, right? But there's also the vulnerability of the video, that you're doing this, that you do, beyond the gatekeepers, that I do before I get out the car, that we have these ways to let people into these different levels of conversation that always don't need a scripture to go with it, but that are the scripture living, right?
That's it.
Because at the end of the day, people listen to this, people will watch this, Vanessa, who would never watch a video about HIV, but because they trust you, because they've seen you do the work,
and they trust
go,
you.
well, maybe now I have a little bit of the way I need to talk to my doctor. Maybe I could talk to my partner. When we were doing the Mpox vaccinations here at NJCR, we would get 400 on a day, right? And the lines would start 2 hours before it was time to do the shots, and they would be down the block. And
Right.
then, as working in as part of the community, I would just go outside. That part was removing the stigma. Like, okay, everybody here having sex, we all know that. So then nobody goes, hey, pastor, hey,
Right.
bishop. So then let that go. And then somebody
Yeah.
goes, hey, you work here. Can I talk to somebody about prep? Anybody, who else needs to talk to somebody about prep? And the people
Exactly.
raise their hands. So
Yeah.
y'all go into the tent so I can have the prep coordinator come there
Yes.
and have a conversation to sign you up. And then we'll put you right back in your spot in line. I guarantee you, each of you've got your shot. Okay. There will be couples, and the guy was, I remember this one couple, the guy said, well, I'm about to get my second shot when it was in the two-part, and my partner's getting his first. And I'm like, that's spoken some of the dynamics going on in their relationship. It was like, all that aside, I appreciate you trust me enough to say that so we can just get you to healthy,
Just to
period.
get you to
Just
healthy.
get you to covering, right? We're supposed to be the covering. And
Yes.
because of the access that we have, we can provide some covering that, that is far and above, that's far and above our access as pastors. That's because of our access as pastors,
Right.
But,
Right.
people, pastor, somewhere I can, and they don't know why they know to call you as their pastor, but you can call me or you can call somebody else and go, hey, now I need you to get so-and-so by 2 o'clock. And they got your shot for you. Thank you, pastor. Thank
Yeah.
you. Get me tomorrow. Your name is on the list. And
Yes.
see, Red. Go see Pastor Kevin, and he'll
Yeah.
mention, hey, Bishop Vanessa told me, come on, you go first. Why they go
Right.
first? Because they're on the list, right? I mean, and so if we could get to the trauma and the stigma,
Yes.
we can get everybody to the access,
Yeah.
right? Because we talk about undetectable, we talk about PrEP, we talk about toxic PrEP, being able to take a pill that that deals with STIs. It's like at the end of the day, the medical mistrust is still rooted in some trauma. It's
Still
still
rooted.
rooted in the what if somebody finds out I'm on this pill. Look,
Come on.
right here in my drawer, I have popped out my my PrEP, and had it on, and somebody inboxed me while I was on this very meeting. I just got up and said, hey, just want you to know we can see you taking your pill. I was like, that's the point. I had to type back.
Yeah.
That's the
You
point.
don't need to see. Yes.
And I'm like, the PrEP is a big white pill. I know
Yeah.
what I'm taking, but I'm a gay man. I'm a
Right.
handsome man, I'm a still sexually active man. So why
Right.
is it in any way confusing? But they're like, oh, we never seen anybody show it. And it's like, I didn't think that was a big
But
deal.
that's, again, it's a part of the stigma, and it's something that we've got to. That is the root, and we've got to drive it away.
I'm driving away, rebuke it.
Rebuke it.
Yep.
We
And
got
that's
to
so good
rebuke
though,
it.
because you're right, because the drive it away it's almost like we need, how the Catholic Church will bless a bike or bless a pet. We almost need to bless your meds. You know what I mean? Like bring your
Yes.
hypertension medicine, bring your diabetes medicine, bring your PrEP, bring your HIV medicine, bring it all, because God
Bring it.
created the person who created the pill that's
Yes.
saving your life. And you're not going to act like there's supposed to be any shame in that, because God did it, right?
Yes.
You shall live and not die is real. So
Yeah.
it says you shall live and not die. You shall be alive and not die.
That's right. So I know you to be an out of the box pastor. I know that you're going to be an out of the box bishop. Period. That's just the way it is. That's the way. This is the life that you've lived. You've shown it in your works. And so, out of the box, what are out of the box ways that the Black church can participate in to, number one, get rid of stigma, but number two, have healthy conversations around sex and sexuality? What are those things that the Black church can do besides being toxic, because it can be,
It can be.
about these things that we're discussing right now, to make people
So,
hide and to feel shame and guilt.
yeah. So thank you for that proclamation of my life. You did it long before anybody else did, years ago. So I'm working on a campaign with Marco Hall called Reimagining Bishop, right? And I want to have a conversation with the community, right? The Black community, LGBTQ folk, faith-based folk, entrepreneurial community, because what God put on my spirit, Bishop, is the idea that so many of us have gotten lost in sitting in the pews, thinking, what, may I please have some more, please? And just waiting for the word of the week, and moving in this kind of less than, this kind of lack space. And God said to my spirit God said, tell them who I made them to be, because each of you, each of us is called to be the directors of our lives. There's no spectators. You're called to be the lead in the project, or your family, or the business that you're called to build. And we still sit in second seat, waiting for somebody to sign us, waiting for somebody to come and get us, waiting for somebody to see us, instead of moving in a space of authority. And so what God gave me is like to tell somebody that the reason things aren't going the way you want is because you keep sitting in the pew instead of getting in the pulpit, because you are the pastor of your life. You're the lead agent.
Come
And
on.
we, as the bishops, are the pastor's pastor. That's why you were drawn to Vanessa. That's why you're drawn to Kevin, because the bishop now is the pastor of a pastor. That's our job. And you're among those pastors. You're among those creative leads that is supposed to step up and step into your fullness. And that's how we're going. Like, we're called to guide next level, right? At the end of the day, Bishop, as we do this work from these different denominations, as we do this work from these different vantage points and different genders, but with the same kind of creative background, we can show them better than we can tell them. When you start empowering that young man, empowering that young woman, speaking to that young couple, speaking to that entrepreneur, speaking to those people that go over, I'm going over there because I like the way she talked to me. I like the way she pours into me. I like that she gets the stuff of, you don't have to say haters every week. You can speak to the part of me that's afraid to be great. You can speak to the part of me that is afraid to invest in me, because what if I fail? Well, what if you succeed? You meet, creatively, we know where to meet people to go, aha, you were trying to run again.
Right.
Get back. Get back to that project. Oh man, how did you know that? Because why did you know to bring this author on this week? Why did you know that, God? Why did you know to record this video this morning about rally? God, same thing. God speaks to us on Tuesday mornings, Wednesday nights. You just keep creating new outlets and new ways of engagement, so that as we feel Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday and all of these ways of pouring into people, they're not as blind and blindsided by Sundays. They don't sit as still for the God told me to tell you, and it's like, hey, can you pay enough attention to the stock market to know that my 401k just took a little tank and I'm struggling? Deal with that. Deal with the fact that home ownership is down and we don't know how to begin. Deal with that. I appreciate going to Bishop O.C. Allen's service one Sunday when I was down in Atlanta. And then afterwards, they did a whole presentation with the medical center. And, there were 100 of us downstairs for the after service, packed in this room, having this conversation, because that's what the church is. The church is where SNCC met. The church is where the women's group met. The church is where the suffragettes met. This is where we meet. And so this work is getting back to who the pastor always was, not just the CEO. I'm not just a member. I'm the player president, right? And the Black church wants to deal with why we losing so many people in the church. Hypocrisy. Because you up here preaching about this while this is going on in your own house. While you can't. I had to say to a brother friend once on one of those shows where they every time they talk about LGBTQ and spirituality, they got to bring somebody to be the contra voice, to be the opponent. He was like, well, I got a young man in my church right now who's struggling with sexuality, and he came to me and I'm praying with him and working to try to get him delivered, and I had to say, God was like, Kevin, don't, me and God fought. So God was like, Kevin, I dare you to say it, I dare you. And I was like, look, so this young man is struggling with sexuality. As a man who's gone through a journey in my sexuality, I had to come out, but I had to be out in a Black church.
Right.
Send them to me so I can walk them through this. I'll send men struggling to be faithful in their marriages while they're having children out of wedlock to you.
Come on.
And they was like, oh, and I was like, they were like, that was a filthy read. I was like, no, the truth is that was a fact.
That's right.
Right? Let's Biden Donald Trump some moments.
Come on.
There's gray in these temples, but these are facts out of this mouth, right?
Come on.
And if we would just do that, then people, Al Sharpton always says that when he brings me, he's like, man, I never got to worry about them backing you up against the wall. I was like, no, because I have no closet doors. I have no place. Right.
No trap doors, no closet doors.
No trap doors, no closet doors. There's no place. The Bible says, I remember one, this woman said, the Bible says that any marriage, that doesn't produce children is not of God. And I said to every Rachel who has found her womb barren in her lifetime.
Come on.
She said, I didn't say that. I said, that is exactly.
But that's exactly what you said. Absolutely.
But we ain't supposed to know the word, so they always supposed to be able to go Sodom and Gomorrah.
Exactly.
And I was like, well, Sodom and Gomorrah was about homosexuals. Why did Lot offer his daughters to the gay man?
What was that about?
States to vegans.
Right.
Oh Man, okay.
Yeah.
His daughters found husbands there. Watch yourself. Watch yourself. And if we're going to talk about the gays, let's talk about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who
Yeah.
changed the fate of an entire people. If you want to talk
Yes.
about it, let's talk about all of them. But
Let's talk
you know,
about all of us. I
we ain't
like it.
supposed to know God like that. And I'm
Yeah.
so grateful, they got, now we get to have one of our little career moments. Like, I've gotten to, I've been so many places in my life and time, and I got to be friends with my favorite singer. And one day, at lunch in Kate Mandolini's in LA, Natalie Cole asked me, Kevin, how are you so okay being out as a gay man and being a man of faith? Because her brother renounced his
Yes.
sexuality before he died,
Yes.
thinking from a
Yes.
Catholic space that somehow it would get him, I don't
Yeah.
know. And God said, Kevin, go ahead and say it. I said, Natalie, God keeps on doing great things for me. And God
Yes.
knows it's me, right? The fact that we get to love and live and be blessed with the lights on, the
Yeah.
fact that that's Luther Vandross and that's Sign, the fact that that's Anita Baker and that's Patti LaBelle and that's Stevie Wonder and Eva Marcel is somebody, who is living a great life, but I also get to call my best friend. That's only God.
So
So that there's enough lights on me for people to go, now say something. They'll pay
yeah.
attention because they've seen the fruits of your labor and the blessings of my, the benefits of my blessings, right?
Yeah.
This ain't me. This ain't me. This is God. This Bishop. This is God. The fact that you've been called around the world to do this work, this is God. The fact that you go, I'm gonna do a new thing. I'm gonna do another thing. And the HIV Vaccine Trials Network goes, well, could you do it for us? That's God. But somebody sang a song that said, favor ain't fair, but it sure is fabulous. Like at the end of the day, we have to be these spotlights to go through stuff, right? We've been through some stuff for people to go, ooh, how'd you get through that? I will show you on camera.
Yeah.
I will show you in my life and my life. I will tell you through my sermons. I'm not hiding. You're not going to go through, something in your home and then get in the pulpit and talk about Trump. You're like, nope, I got something to tell you.
Exactly.
Turn with me to blah, blah, and found it in the Bible? What?
Yes.
Oh, Lord. So everything I need is in the word. Yep. Ooh, Pastor. Ooh, Bishop. I'm telling you, Bishop, as I live and breathe, I remember the Sunday when Rivers of Living Water, New York, had Men's Month, and the thing was intimacy. And I was like, God, I don't know what to preach. I don't know what to preach. And God was like, let's go, because I kept looking for this love affair conversation with God.
Yeah.
And God took me, Lord, I made you a mixtape. And that Sunday still vibrates in my skin.
Wow.
It still vibrates in my skin. I had never in my lifetime had a worship experience that was, Kevin, take your time and lay this sermon out. Because when I turn it over, I'm going to turn it over. And we went from, yes, nice note, yes, oh, that's good, that's good. And when that thing turned over, I promise you, I think 4 or 5 people were left standing in that church.
Absolutely.
Everybody else was like, I was afraid to touch anybody, walk by anybody. But we were talking about intimacy, and everybody in that house got intimate.
That's it.
That's it.
But that's just perfect, because a sermon, right? That motivated people, that let people release and also peel back layers, right, to their lives. Like, you were playing the soundtrack of so many people's lives in that one message, right? That mixtape, hello, was playing everybody's music, right, that they needed to hear to bring them back to themselves. And there are ways that we can do that as pastors, as bishops, as social justice warriors, as people that are leading our community, because that's what we're doing. And we're also getting people to lead themselves.
Yeah. Reimagining Bishop.
I mean, after a while, you if you're going to be a great leader, you have followers. You want them to be great leaders too. We want people to lead themselves, because we got to go on to other things that we have to do too. Right. And so how powerful.
And how powerful, because this kind of empowerment stays with you, so that, right, you can pull, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm on a date, but my bishop's voice is in my ear. Like, do I stay or do I go? How do I negotiate this moment where I like him, but he said, well, come back to my place. How do I negotiate that? Now we're back at his place, but I want to wait because I really like, how do I negotiate that? Because all of that conversation, they're getting over the pulpit. They're getting over the pulpit in the authority and audacity, your capacity to walk in your words, to walk in the words, and not feel like, oh, God don't care about me. I'm on a gay date. You're on a date.
How do you reveal your status to somebody? How do you reveal your status to somebody? How do you say, are you taking any preventive, are you on PrEP? How do you, that's like a whole negotiation. But if I don't talk about it, because we trying to act like people ain't having sex, but people are having sex. Everybody's having sex. So let's talk about it then in church.
Let's talk about it. Like some of y'all heard of PrEP, and some of y'all need to hear about PrEP. So if you don't know anybody else, come see me. If you find yourself in trouble from last night, some of y'all here on Sunday morning, try to pray away what happened last night. I got a doctor for you to see, because prayer ain't gonna cover what just happened. You know what I mean? And that's not prayer's job. Hello, you pray for an answer. I got the answer. And the answer ain't at the altar; is at the doctor's office.
I think we also need to talk about Black women and HIV. We always, like I said to Bishop Cheeks on last week.
Dad.
Huh?
I said, Bishop Cheeks, my spiritual dad.
Yeah, your spiritual dad. Like, we got to talk about it. And that was one of the things that he said, like, when they were dealing with the crisis and when it was time to talk about HIV, they forgot about Black women.
And they still
Black trans women.
And let's get one of the things that brought me to the table in this agency, in this conversation, Bishop, is as you talk about Black women, it's like we statistically talk about men who have sex with men, MSMs. I was like, they have sex with men, but they also have sex with women. So how are we not having these women in the conversation? Because that man who's having recreational sex over here with a man is going to go home and have the same kind of sex with a woman. Right, the young man, right? And you talked about it earlier. These Black women whose numbers aren't going through the roof over 50. You know why? Because she's sexier at 50 than she thought she'd be. Somebody 20-something, 30-something hollering at her at the club, and she's like, L.
Right.
This young man is living a life of survival sex. So she was survival sex last week. Cat Daddy gonna be survival sex next week, and all of those worlds mesh. But statistically, they don't ever converge. Child, let me pull this veil up for you. So you see how this Black woman over here dating Ray Ray is over here with Ray Ray dating, Pastor Keith. Hello.
Yeah. Come on and talk about it.
Let's have a conversation, because otherwise you can't see how this came together. And we can. We can. And unless we take the leadership role of saying to Black, we've had to have this in these PrEP conversations, like, how do we get sexually active Black women on PrEP? We got to, because her life shouldn't have. Can you imagine getting all the way into your 50s? But that's happening for people. People have gotten into their 50s and 60s, still converting because
it's happening.
They didn't expect, it's happening. And it's like, we got to stop that. Yeah. When there are pills, right? Yeah. When there are pills that you could be taking, going, well, I don't know what kind of weekend it's going to be, but it might be a weekend where, where I get my groove on, get my groove back, get my swerve on. And I need to be mindful to save my life while I'm doing it. It shouldn't cost me my life to have fun. I shouldn't have to be thinking about that.
Right. And so say more about PrEP.
So, pre-exposure prophylaxis is the idea that you get to take a pill once a day. Other people have come up with other regimens. I've heard the 221, but it's every day, that allows the medicine to move through your body, being able to in advance kill any of the of the cells that might become the HIV virus. And so I've been on PrEP for a few years now. Being at this agency, but for us, people don't realize it. You make all of that freelance money in the entertainment industry, but can't get a doctor because your doctor. For me at one point, I went to look at healthcare, and it was like $800 a month, and I was like, good to not be sick, to pray I don't get sick. I have a friend, Elaine Helps in the city of Newark, who had a clinic, and so twice a year I went to her clinic just to do the overall work, because I wasn't paying $800 a month. And so being able to be here at NJCR, the first thing I thought was, oh, good, I can get on PrEP. But the good thing, Beth, is that allowed me to do a full scale physical that I had, hadn't done in 20 years. I found out my blood pressure was high, that my cholesterol was high, and that I was pre-diabetic because I hadn't rishing and whipping and running, and it just allowed me to take care of myself, right?
Yes.
And so watch all those numbers come down, watch weight come off, and to be in a place where I am in control of my sexual health, right?
Yes.
And so, that prep every day. Now I was like, do I need to get on DoxyPep because that also covers STIs? Because while the numbers are doing this over here, while the numbers are doing this over here with HIV, STI numbers are going up too. So some people might be on PrEP, which covers the HIV virus, but chlamydia is going up, syphilis is going up, and other things are going up is because people haven't done the work to take care of their sexual health, to do a real panel of their sexual well-being. So I'm looking at that because at the end of the day, I didn't get this far, right? To have something happen to me in my body that there is medication for.
Yes.
Right? And I remembered when we, rolling back real quick to the pandemic, had it been a day when I worked at the office, the Department of Health and Community Wellness for the city of Newark, and it snowed. But I have an SUV, so I was able to get to work. When I got to work, I saw trucks lined up the street. When I went inside, everybody inside was somebody's parents or grandparents and white. I was like, wow, the city's closed. People can't make it. People like, oh, good. There's a chance to get my mother in, my auntie in, my people in, and they weren't from Newark.
Wow.
They sure didn't mind coming to Newark to get Newark's medicine while we were still debating, is the medicine any good? And my whole thing is, if you're concerned about the medicine, then ask somebody, and then let somebody get you to somebody to ask your questions, but don't just sit it out. Because as you said, that's how HIV is going through the roof. It's how we lost so many people in the pandemic. And we who get this seat of leadership, who get to sit with people, have to have the conversations because they were on TV talking about if you suffer from comorbidities, you should really consider taking the vaccine. And a lot of people don't go, what the, mama, what the hell is a comorbidity? I don't know. What is it? You know what I mean? And when your pastor can from the pulpit say, so if you got high blood pressure, and those are comorbidities. Well, didn't I learn something in church today? Bishop Vanessa told me what a comorbidity was.
Right.
Now I need to shot.
Right.
Because I'm already in danger, and now this thing could wipe me out. I'm good.
Yeah. Bishop-elect, this has been wonderful. I want you to give us one last word. I want you to tell us how to find you on social media. And I also want to talk about NJCRI and ways to give to NJCRI.
Okay. Thank you. So a lot of people, God bless them, especially people who have had issues with going to their doctor. They come here to do PrEP. They came here to get the Mpox vaccine. They come here to get tested. And just know that, at NJCRI or NJCRI.org, there's a donate button. We had a couple of families come in and say, hey, we weren't able to get vaccinated any other way because they were undocumented and they were Indian, not not the normal undocumented person, right? That people think about. But they said we wanted to get back. And so they were able to go to the site and donate. But it's always on social media. There's always a link. My social media link is at kevinetaylor.com. It's Kevin E. Taylor. I use the E because I went to the principal's office one day in 8th grade and they called Kevin Taylor to office and 3 of us came. That day I've been Kevin E. Taylor. And my word, good bishop, good sister, good sibling, is this. I desire what I deserve, and I deserve what I desire. The enemy has implanted, I'm talking about, not the devil, I'm talking about that inner me, that trauma voice, that stigma voice, has in mind to convince you that you're not worth it, right? But I want you to think about this. If you weren't worth it, why bother you? You know how people walk past pennies and go, that penny, it ain't even worth my time. Why bother you if you're so unworthy? Why bother you? Why does your name keep coming out of so many people's lips across so many pulpits on Sunday when God was supposed to give them a word? But you irritated them so much that they had to talk about you and your wife. They had to talk about you and your life. If you figure out who you are and whose you are and show all the way up, I promise you, the stuff you've been waiting on you. I desire what I deserve, and I deserve what I desire. The man talking to you now on the cusp of 60 learned this before he turned 16. Because one day a preacher in my mama's Baptist church started to preach an ugly anti-gay sermon. And I was like, Mama, she's like, baby, get out. You can go. And then I got home and I was like, God, I thought we were good. I've been knowing you since I was 10. You've helped me with exams. You helped me love myself. If who I am is wrong, take it. But I need a sign from you that we good and that you like me. Bishop Vanessa Brown. Bishop Vanessa M. Brown. I'd call your middle name, but then they know how well I know you. Bishop Brown. I prayed that prayer to God Sunday night in snotty tears on the project porch in Southwest DC. I went to school the next day, and a young man I had liked since fourth grade, it was ninth grade, I was 15. That young man came up to me, he said, I don't know what it was, but something told me last night to tell you that I like you. That was God then, that is God now. The
Yes.
God that they're trying to keep from you, is trying to meet the pastor in your life, not the member.
Come on.
Yeah.
Brilliant, as always, and so wonderful. I want to thank you. Thank you so much.
Anytime, any place.
Anytime,
any place, anything for you.
Thank you. And to our listening audience, those that are watching Bridging the Gap, we're going to be bringing you these conversations every week. We appreciate you very much for joining us. We say God bless you, and we say have a wonderful evening.
Be blessed, be well.